January 15th, 1919. 12:30 p.m. Close your eyes. You are standing on Commercial Street, Boston's North End. You hear the groan of metal, a low sound like a moan. You smell the sweet, sickening scent of molasses. In the next 5 minutes, 21 people will drown in 2.3 million gallons of molasses moving at 35 miles per hour. But some survived. The question is, would you? Let me paint you a picture that will make you rethink every harmless substance you've ever encountered. You are in one of Boston's busiest neighborhoods, the North End. Mostly Italian and Irish immigrants, working-class families. It's a Wednesday in January, but it's unseasonably warm, 40 degrees Fahrenheit. People are out in the streets, enjoying the weather. You work at the North End paving yard. You and your co-workers are on lunch break. Some are playing cards at the Engine 31 firehouse. Children are playing near the wharf. Maria DeStatio, 10 years old, and her brother, Antonio, 8, are collecting firewood with their friend Pasquale Iantosca, also 10. Martin Clafferty, owner of the Pen and Pencil Club bar, is still sleeping after working until 4 a.m. It's a normal day. Except that right next to all of you, there's a tank containing 2.3 million gallons of industrial molasses. This tank is 50 feet tall, 90 feet in diameter. It was built in 1915 by the United States Industrial Alcohol Company during World War I. Rushed construction, quality control, basically zero. The molasses is used to produce industrial alcohol, munitions, explosives, and this tank has a problem. It leaks. North End residents have been complaining for years. Children collect the oozing molasses in buckets. It's sweet. It's free. The company paints the tank brown to camouflage the leaks. You know what the company doesn't do? Fix the tank. They don't check the steel thickness. They don't test structural integrity. They don't inspect the rivets, because that would cost money. And molasses? Molasses is just molasses. What could go wrong? Physics doesn't negotiate with corporate negligence. 2 days ago, on January 12th, a shipment of 600,000 gallons of molasses arrived from the Caribbean. Warm molasses, heated to make pumping easier. It was dumped into the tank that was already full of cold molasses. Warm molasses on top, cold molasses on bottom. Different temperatures, different densities, different pressures. And now, January 15th, the weather has suddenly warmed to 40 degrees Fahrenheit after days of below freezing temperatures. The molasses is fermenting, producing gases, expanding. The tank wasn't designed for this. And you are 100 feet away from this tank, eating your lunch, living your life, completely oblivious to the fact that thermodynamics is about to demonstrate why sweet doesn't mean safe. "12:25 p.m. 5 minutes before, you're finishing your sandwich when you hear something. A groaning, low, metallic, like the sound of a steel ship under stress. Some workers look up, at the tank. That noise again. Someone says. Another responds, that tank always makes noise. It's normal. It's not normal. Decision point 1. You hear the tank groaning. USCE rivets glistening in the sun, wet with leaking molasses. You have 5 minutes. Do you A. Continue your lunch. The tank always makes noise. Supervisors don't seem worried. Or B. Walk away from the tank now. Trust your instinct that something is wrong. Think about the physics. A tank making stress sounds is not normal. It's the material warning you it's at its limit. But you're in 1919. There's no OSHA, no safety protocols. Complaining might cost you your job. Comment your answer, A or B, and tell me, do you trust it's always been like this, or do you trust physics? Let's assume you chose A. You stayed. Because 99% of people stayed. 12:30 p.m. Half past noon. The metallic groaning gets louder. Some workers finally stop eating. Look at the tank. A supervisor yells, "Hey, get back to work after lunch." Nobody is saying, "Evacuate." Nobody is sounding an alarm. Because in 1919, corporate culture values productivity over precaution. And then you hear it. A different sound. Pop, pop, pop. Like rifle shots. It's the rivets. Exploding out of the tank under extreme pressure. Half-inch steel rivets firing like bullets at hundreds of feet per second. Now people are looking. Now people are getting up. But physics doesn't wait. 12:40 p.m. 10 minutes after the first groan, the bottom of the tank explodes. 2.3 million gallons of molasses are released in seconds. First, it shoots upward like a geyser, 50 feet high, a deadly fountain of brown liquid. Then, gravity kicks in. The wave falls. And now, you understand what molasses at 35 miles per hour really means. Molasses is a non-Newtonian fluid. Under pressure, its viscosity changes. It gets thinner, flows faster. 2.3 million gallons weighs 26 million pounds. Density, 1.5 times greater than water. This isn't a flood. It's a liquid landslide. A wall of molasses 15 to 25 feet high, 160 feet wide, moving at 35 miles per hour, faster than you can run, heavier than you can resist. And unlike water, when molasses catches you, you can't swim, you can't breathe, you sink. And the more you struggle, the deeper you go. Now you're standing. You see the wave coming, a 15-foot brown wall moving directly towards you. You have approximately 8 seconds. Decision point 2. The molasses wave is 100 feet away and closing. 35 miles per hour means 51 feet per second. You're in the middle of Commercial Street. Do you A. Run perpendicular to the wave, try to reach the side of the street, climb a building, or B. Run in the same direction as the wave, try to stay ahead of it, or C. Look for something to grab onto, a pole, elevated train structure, anything fixed. There's no right answer here, just physics. The wave moves at 51 feet per second. Maximum human sprint speed, 20 to 25 feet per second. You cannot outrun it. But the wave doesn't maintain uniform speed. It slows as it cools and spreads. And viscosity means it flows like mud, not like water. It won't rush past you, it will engulf you. Comment A, B, or C, and why. What's your survival strategy? At the North End paving yard, 6 workers were eating lunch. The wave engulfs them. William Brogan, 61, Teamster. No chance to escape. James McMullen, railway foreman. Internal injuries. Dies days later. John Cyberlick, 69, blacksmith. Fractured skull. Crushed by debris. Patrick Breen, 44, laborer. Swept into Boston Harbor. He survives the drowning. Rescued from the freezing water, but develops pneumonia. Broken ribs. Injured leg. Dies a week later. Bridget Clafferty, 65, was in her home on Copp's Hill Terrace. The wave hits her wooden building. The house collapses. Bridget dies instantly. Her children, Stephen, Martin, and Teresa, are injured. Martin, the bar owner who was sleeping after closing at 4 a.m., he's thrown out of his house through the window as molasses swallows the building. He grabs onto something floating in the molasses. It's his own bed frame. Martin survives by floating on his bed through a sea of molasses. Stephen Clafferty, Martin's brother, survives physically, but the mental trauma destroys him. He dies 11 months later at the Boston State Hospital for the insane. Victim number 21. Now, let's assume you were caught. You couldn't run fast enough, or you chose the wrong direction, or you were too close when it happened. The wave hit you. You were knocked down, dragged, submerged, but you made it out, head above surface. You're alive, but you're trapped, waist deep in molasses. And here's the problem most people don't understand about molasses. It's not like water. Water, if you're trapped in it, you can swim. You can move your limbs. Molasses is 1.5 times denser than water. And the viscosity is a trap. Decision point 3. You're trapped in molasses up to your waist. It's been 2 minutes since the explosion. The temperature is 40 degrees Fahrenheit and dropping. The molasses is starting to harden. You see other people trapped near you. Some struggling violently, others nearly motionless. Do you A. Fight with all your strength, rapid violent movements trying to break free? Or B. Slow and deliberate movements, conserve energy, try to swim gently? Or C. Stay completely still, wait for rescue, don't expend energy. Think about the physics of viscous fluids. Rapid movements increase resistance. The molasses grips harder. It's like quicksand. The more you fight, the deeper you sink. But staying completely still? The molasses is cooling, hardening. In 20 minutes, it'll be like cement. The correct answer is B. Slow movements. But this goes against every survival instinct. Your brain is screaming, escape, move. And people who followed that instinct sank deeper, exhausted themselves, and died. Comment your answer and be honest. Could you force your body to move slowly while panicking? The wave traveled half a mile, destroyed 6 buildings completely, damaged dozens more, knocked down elevated railway supports, swept train cars like toys. When it finally stops, Commercial Street is covered in 2 to 3 feet of molasses, some areas deeper, up to 15 feet deep where the molasses pooled. And then, silence. The kind of silence that comes after catastrophe, broken only by moans, muffled screams, calls for help. A Boston Post reporter who arrived at the scene wrote, "Here and there struggled a form. Whether it was animal or human being was impossible to tell. Only an upheaval, a thrashing about in the sticky mass, showed where any life was. Horses died like flies on flypaper. The more they struggled, the deeper they became stuck. 12 horses dead. Countless dogs and cats. First responders arrived within minutes. 116 cadets from USS Nantucket, a training ship docked nearby. They ran several blocks, waded into knee-deep molasses to pull out survivors. Boston Police, Red Cross, sailors, soldiers. Some Red Cross nurses dove into the molasses to reach victims. And rescuing people from molasses? Nearly impossible, because the molasses was hardening. The temperature was dropping. Molasses behaves differently at different temperatures. At 40 degrees Fahrenheit, it's 10 times more viscous than it was at 80 degrees Fahrenheit when it exploded. Firefighters tried to wash the molasses away with water from fire hydrants. Didn't work. Just spread it around. Finally, someone realized salt water breaks down molasses. They brought a fireboat from the harbor, started pumping salt water from Boston Harbor. But that took hours, and people were drowning. Now, the most dramatic rescue happened at the Engine 31 firehouse. The building had collapsed, but several firefighters who had been playing cards at lunch were trapped in an air pocket in the collapsed first floor. Molasses slowly flooding the space. Workers cut away floorboards, removed debris. Took several hours. They saved the survivors, but not before one of the firefighters lost his strength and drowned. The search for victims continued for 4 days. Many of the dead were so glazed in molasses they were hard to identify. Some bodies took weeks to be found. Cesare Niccolo, 32, wagon driver, was the last. His body was fished from Boston Harbor almost 4 months later. In May, he had been swept into the harbor by the wave. 21 dead, 150 injured, and the city of Boston smelled like molasses. The sweet, sickening scent lingered for weeks. The harbor was brown until summer, and they say for decades after, on hot summer days, you could still smell molasses in the North End streets. Sweet, like a reminder of the day Harmless killed 21 people. Now let's assume you made it. You did the slow movements, conserved energy, reached solid structure. You're on a fallen train beam, or building wreckage, 10 feet above the molasses. You're safe. You're alive. And you hear screaming. People trapped in the molasses below you, calling for help. You see a child, maybe 8 or 9 years old, sinking. The temperature is 35 degrees Fahrenheit now. The molasses is hardening fast. You know, if you wait for official rescuers, some of these people will die. But you're exhausted, covered in molasses. You barely saved yourself. And going back into the molasses, there's a real chance you'll get trapped too. Decision point 4. You're safe, but other people aren't. First responders will arrive in 5 to 10 minutes. But that child doesn't have 10 minutes. Do you? A. Stay where you are, wait for trained rescuers with proper equipment. Or B. Go back down into the molasses, try to pull people to safety. Or C. Look for something to use as a tool, rope, plank, pole, to reach people without entering the molasses. This isn't a physics decision. This is a moral decision, and there's no universal right answer. In the real story, people made all three choices. Those who went down saved lives, but some also died. Those who looked for tools saved some, but it took time. Those who waited lived with that choice for the rest of their lives. The question isn't, what's the right answer? The question is, what would you do? And you won't know until you're there. Comment A, B, or C and explain your reasoning. Because survival isn't always about physics. Sometimes it's about who you choose to be when the world is burning. The cleanup took weeks. Over 300 workers converged on the scene. Firefighters used brooms, saws, and saltwater pumps to strip away the sticky residue. But the molasses was in everything. Streets, sidewalks, inside buildings, on clothing, on people's shoes. Boston was sticky. Every person who stepped in the molasses tracked it home, to work, on public transportation. For weeks, everything in Boston was slightly tacky. And then came the lawsuits. 119 Boston residents brought a class action lawsuit against the United States Industrial Alcohol Company, one of the first class action suits in Massachusetts, a milestone in modern corporate regulation. The company, of course, claimed the tank was blown up by anarchists because it was 1919. First Red Scare, fear of communists. It was a bomb, they claimed. They spent $50,000 on expert witnesses trying to prove sabotage. You know what the investigation found? The tank's steel was half as thick as it should have been. The steel was chemically inadequate, lacking manganese, making it brittle and weak. The rivets were failing. The rivet holes were cracking. The tank had been leaking for 4 years. Residents complained. Employees warned management. The company painted the tank brown to hide the leaks. Did nothing structural. It took 6 years, 3,000 witnesses, 45,000 pages of testimony. In 1925, Auditor Hugh W. Ogden ruled United States Industrial Alcohol was guilty. Corporate negligence, poor construction, lack of oversight, $628,000 in damages, equivalent to $11.4 million today. Victims' families received about $7,000 per dead person, $127,000 in 2024 dollars. That's what a life was worth in 1925. But the real story doesn't end with the money. The tragedy of the Boston molasses flood changed America. Regulations requiring engineers to sign and seal plans. Building inspectors must examine projects. Architects must show their work. All came as a result of this disaster. Before 1919, you could build a giant steel tank in a densely populated urban area without engineering approval. No inspection. No standards. And when it killed people, well, accidents happen. After 1919, no longer. The molasses flood didn't just create safety regulations. It created the concept of corporate accountability, the idea that companies must be held responsible when their negligence kills people. 21 people died so that lesson could be learned. Their deaths were not in vain. So what does the molasses flood teach about survival? 3 lessons. Lesson 1. Viscosity kills. It's not just about water. It's not just about fire. Any substance can be lethal under the right conditions. 2.3 million gallons of harmless molasses killed more people than many violent attacks. Because physics doesn't care about your assumptions of what's dangerous. Density x, velocity x, volume equals lethal force. Molasses at 35 miles per hour with 1.5x water density equals deadlier tsunami than water. You learned that today. I hope you never need to use it. Lesson 2. Warning signs exist. Always. The tank was groaning for 10 minutes before it exploded. It had been leaking for 4 years. Workers knew. Residents knew. The company knew. Everyone knew. But it's always been like this. Beat. This is wrong. Normalization of deviance. It's when you see something unsafe so many times you stop registering it as danger. When you hear metal groaning, you move. When you see structural leaks, you report. When supervisors say, "It's always been like this," you question. Because the alternative is becoming the statistic that teaches the next generation. And that's not a position you want to be in. Lesson 3. Survival isn't always about you. The ones who survived weren't just the fastest or strongest. They were the ones who made decisions under pressure. Those who moved slowly when instincts screamed to run. Those who chose to risk themselves to save others. Antonio de Stasio survived because he was 15 feet to the left of his sister. Not skill. Luck. Martin Cloferty survived by floating on his bed through molasses. You can't plan for that. But you can. Recognize danger early. Trust physics over, "It's always been like this." Make hard choices fast. And live with those choices. So, would you have survived? Let's count your choices. Decision 1. You heard the tank groaning. Did you stay or leave? Decision 2. The wave came toward you at 35 miles per hour. Did you run perpendicular, same direction, or grab structure? Decision 3. You were trapped in molasses. Did you fight violently, move slowly, or stay still? Decision 4. You were safe, but others weren't. Did you stay, go back down, or look for tools? In the comments, tell me. 1. Your decisions in order A or B or C for each. 2. Do you think you survived? 3. What was your hardest choice? I'll respond to every comment within 24 hours. And if we hit 500 comments, I'll reveal the optimal survival strategy. The choices that statistically gave the best odds. Remember, your decisions in seconds can determine if you live or die. The physics of the Great Molasses Flood teaches a lesson that applies to any disaster. Recognize danger early. Trust evidence, not "it's always been like this." Understand the physical properties of the threat. And make hard choices fast. Would you survive? Now you know what it takes. Next episode. The worst aviation accident in history. 583 people died at Tenerife in 1977 when two Boeing 747 collided on the runway. But 61 survived, and their decisions in the first 30 seconds determined who lived and who died. Would you have made those decisions?